by getting this guy out of our country. I'm going to call him a terrorist because he has been designated as a member of a terrorist organization.
Maryland Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen traveled to El Salvador yesterday, advocating for Garcia to be returned to the U.S. Trump border czar Tom Homan commented on this lawmaker.
I mean, Chris Van Hollen, the guy that didn't want to sign the Laken Riley Act that protects American citizens against illegal alien criminal gang members, who instead of protecting Americans, his constituents, his taxpayers, he goes to El Salvador and defends an illegal alien. Rather than protecting his community, protecting the residents of Maryland, he goes to El Salvador to coddle an MS-13 gang member terrorist. It's ridiculous.
The Missouri Senator Josh Hawley says this is a new low, even for Democrats.
They are so in love with criminal illegals that they would like to go and personally escort them into the country one at a time. I am watching this in total disbelief. The Democrat Party has officially hit moral rock bottom.
A Valero oil refinery will be shutting down because of California's high cost and heavy regulation. Tim Stewart, president of the U.S. Oil and Gas Association, talks about what this means for gas prices and the overall economy.
Well, it's a big deal for Californians. This one complex is almost 9% of the total California refining capacity. It's 9% of its special refining blend. 145,000 barrels a day. Californians consume 35 million gallons of gasoline a day. It's about 8% of California's total consumption. So, Carly, it's a pretty big deal right now. And the thing is this was predictable, and it is unfortunate. But the industry's been warning the governor about this for months now, for actually years now, that their overregulation of the refining sector in California will lead to actions that took place just like one yesterday.
Maine Governor Janet Mills has refused to comply with President Trump's executive order that prohibits men from playing on women's sports teams. So yesterday, Attorney General Pam Bondi announced the DOJ is suing the state of Maine. Women's advocate Riley Gaines says this is about girls being girls.
You have all of these young girls. I'm talking 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. They've got their jerseys on, their sports uniforms, their big bows in their hair that they wear on the soccer field. That visual means more to me than I could possibly put into words, and that is what is at stake here. That is who Governor Mills is fighting, not Donald Trump. It's those little girls.
A Bible reading marathon continues today at the Louisiana State Capitol. Chris Woodward has more.
The event began Wednesday and wraps on Saturday night. Southland Christian Ministries is co-hosting the event along with Louisiana Family Forum, and Southland Director Mike Herbster talked about this on Washington Watch.
The foundation of life and liberty is in the Word of God. And so it was last year that I reached out to Seedline International, which is the organization that does this in other states around the country, as well as they host one nationally at the end of this month, April 26th through the 30th. They'll host the national one at the nation's capital. And we hosted it with them last year. And our desire is to publicly read straight through the Bible as a way of establishing just the foundation for our lives and for our families and, of course, for our state.
The governor of Louisiana has been invited, as well as the lieutenant governor and state legislators. Herbster said we might even see some of them out there as part of this event.
There's 2 websites you can go to. You can go to southlandcamp.org, and under the opportunities, you can see the Bible Reading Marathon /Bible Reading Marathon, or you can go to capitalbrm.org.
I'm Chris Woodward.
More news available online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app for your Apple or Android device. I'm Rusty P.
Hello, my name is Andy Miller, and I'm the president of Wesley Biblical Seminary based in Ridgeland, Mississippi. We are developing trusted leaders for faithful churches, and we do that based in the authority of Scripture and in the reality that Christians can be transformed. We do that also through bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees. We'd love for you to learn more about Wesley Biblical Seminary at wbs.edu, where we're developing trusted leaders for faithful churches.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, president of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trivia Friday. Except it's not. Fooled ya. It's Thursday. It's Thursday, April the 17th, 2025. I'm Tim Wildman here on Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Ed Vitagliano in studio with me. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Tim.
Fred Jackson.
Good morning, Tim.
And Chris Woodward.
Hello.
And we thank you for listening again to AFR. Tomorrow, we normally have Trivia Friday, but each Good Friday rolls around once a year. We have something different, right?
Yeah, we are going to have I don't know how to say this, religiously themed programming during the time when we usually have Trivia Friday, simply because Good Friday is. We've just decided over the years you don't really want to just be yucking it up, and we can act a little silly sometimes, and it's a holy day, and so tomorrow we will have more Christian themed programming. The first hour, help me out, Brent. I forget the first hour. The third segment from 11 to 11:30 Central Time is going to be Dr. Ray Pritchard. He has a special. What's the first hour?
Correct. The first hour is going to be Exploring the Word.
Yes.
We're going to have an Exploring the Word for tomorrow at 10 to 11 Central.
So the whole hour and a half that we usually do Trivia Friday.
Focused on Easter.
Focused on Easter. That's correct.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's coming up tomorrow. Today, a lot to talk about. Again, we appreciate you joining us. What's leading the news?
Well, it's something that people on Fox News and other outlets were still talking about this morning. Yesterday afternoon, a, quote, special guest appeared at the White House for a special press briefing. It was Patty Moran. She is the mother of murder victim Rachel Moran, and she was on to share details of what happened to her daughter. Rachel Moran was sexually assaulted and murdered by an illegal immigrant. That man was arrested and has recently been convicted for those crimes. And Patty went into great detail in front of national reporters and national television to explain the gruesome things that her daughter experienced in her final moments. We did not purposely air those sound bites because they're too graphic. But at the end, after taking 5, 6, 7 minutes to explain what happened to her daughter and how it happened to her daughter, Patty did go on to say that we need to deport dangerous illegal aliens to protect Americans like her daughter. Clip 1.
These are the kind of criminals President Trump wants to remove from our country. These are the kind of criminals that we need to remove from our country. We are American citizens. Why should we allow people like this, violent criminals that have no conscience at all, to murder our mothers, our sisters, our daughters? What? I don't understand.
Now, she appeared before these reporters to share these, to make these comments to reporters because Democrats, led by Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, were going on what they have described as a rescue mission to El Salvador to get the man that media keeps referring to as a Maryland father who was wrongfully deported to El Salvador, even though the government says he was an MS-13 member.
Now, am I correct in some of these stories I do get mixed up? I think Fox covered this lady live.
Yes.
But other media did not. They almost ignored this press conference. Do I have that right?
You just bingoed. CNN, MSNBC are among the news outlets that purposely chose not to air it, and the Trump administration after that, after finding that out, they ripped those networks for refusing to air her comments. They called it shameful.
Yep.
Okay, so the backstory here, if you want to know it, is there was a illegal immigrant who was arrested. There's been a lot of them arrested by ICE in Maryland, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So when was this, a month ago or so?
She was murdered in 2023.
No, that isn't what I'm asking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I asked you, when was he arrested? The fellow it was like 2-3 weeks ago? Do we know?
No, are you mixing up the guy who's been shipped to El Salvador versus the guy who did the raping against Moran?
Yes,
There's two separate people.
I'm not mixing them up, Fred.
Okay.
I've got them separated.
Okay.
But did I sound like a smarty right there?
No comment.
Huh?
No
Because
comment. Well, you're defending your honor.
Okay.
We expect a little pushback. That's
okay.
fine.
No, here's what I'm saying, and I apologize if I did sound that way. I'm telling you what led up to this press conference.
Okay.
Okay. So the fella that was deported, the senator, the United States senator from Maryland.
Holland. Van Hollen.
Okay. He went to El Salvador yesterday.
Yes.
He went to try to get back a man that he says has been wrongfully sent to the El Salvadorian prison.
That is correct.
Okay. But the Trump administration says no, he is not innocent, right?
Right.
That's correct.
Okay. So what some others talking about is that this same Maryland senator
Yes.
had nothing to say when her daughter, who is a Maryland citizen, was murdered.
That is correct.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we have, if all that is the case that I've just said, obviously the mother would be outraged, and the average citizen would be outraged that a United States senator from Maryland, who had nothing to say when a Maryland citizen was murdered by an illegal immigrant, now is trying to get one freed, flying all the way down to El Salvador in the name of freeing a man that he said, what does he say is innocent?
Van Hollen says that Republicans are lying when they say this guy was a member of MS-13.
Okay.
But
This is just who you believe.
Yeah, but Republicans yesterday noted that back, this is Garcia, the guy that's now in El
Salvador, yeah.
They say there were 2 judgments against Garcia back, and he's been in the country since 2012, I think, entered illegally. There's been 2 judgments that have identified him as a member of MS-13. The other thing the Democrats have done, and some of the networks have done this, is show Garcia's wife pleading for the return of her husband. But what happened yesterday, I think it was the Daily Signal or a news agency went out, and they went to court documents where Garcia's wife in the last couple of years has filed 2 domestic violence criticisms, charges against her.
Called the police.
Yes, against her husband.
Okay, and now she's trying to save him.
Now she's trying to
get him to come back.
Whatever is prompting her to do that is unclear.
Yep.
But anyway, the point of this press conference yesterday at the White House, well, this lady, this mother,
Patty,
who we heard from, Patty, appearing at the press conference, the Trump administration wanted at the White House wanted to make a point that the Democrats don't care about the people who are being victimized in America by illegal aliens or illegal immigrants. They only care about the victimizers, the ones who do the crimes. They want to protect them, then they want to protect more of the U.S. citizens. Have I got the point?
Yeah,
right?
that's going to be a big problem for the Democrats going forward. This is not a good look. This is not a good look for the Maryland senator, Chris Van Hollen.
I think he's pandering. Let me tell you. Don't you think he's pandering?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely. He's pandering
To the Hispanic community, I think.
Yeah, or it's just the leftist view. Now, one of the charges that has been levied against President Trump and the Trump administration is denial of due process. Okay, that's what they're saying is, and what they're pushing for, the Democrats, is they want each and every one of these people who are being deported to have a day in court and to have a hearing.
Lawyer up,
and all those kind of things.
Hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah, millions of people. But the Democrats had this problem in the 60s, on into the 70s, even into the early 80s when Democrats were running against Ronald Reagan. Soft on crime. That has always been a charge against the Democratic Party. Soft on crime, and it's manifested by the appearance of a concern for the rights of criminals rather than the rights of victims. And that probably led to some of their losses to Richard Nixon and to Ronald Reagan in the aftermath of that. And I think they're cruising towards the same consequence.
One of the big things that really sickens and angers me about this is the cover the Democratic Party continues to get from the mainstream media. They're refusing to deal, like Chris has noted. They didn't cover this news conference yesterday with Patty Moran. Also, they're not telling the truth, as other news agencies are, that this guy, Garcia, has been noted in courtrooms as a member of MS-13.
Right.
The other media is not doing their job as far as the wife of Garcia having gone to police and made formal complaints against.
Well,
she says he beat her twice.
Okay. We all know why this is going on pretty much, but it was said out loud. But what I mean, this is going on, this cover for the Democrats and not crediting the Trump administration on illegal immigration. You remember?
That's the big issue.
Chuck Todd?
Yeah.
Okay, Chuck Todd is the NBC host of Meet the Press. Have I got that right?
Well, he was.
Yeah.
He's since moved on from
Okay,
that.
but he was doing an interview the other day with Piers Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
And the independent journalist you see out there, the British guy. Piers Morgan pushed him on why the news media covering the White House did not expose Biden's mental decline, why they ignored it, didn't make it a story. And Chuck Todd admitted, he said, because we didn't want to help Trump.
Yeah.
Now, I'm paraphrasing there, and he did, and by we, I mean, he was saying the liberal mainstream media.
Mm-hmm.
So when we say that there are biases, liberal biases against conservatives, that the liberal media, which make up the vast majority of the mainstream press, the three-letter, that we would know, television networks and so forth, they are deliberately, and they're on the Democrat team. Okay, so they're on the progressive team, progressive.
Right.
Okay, and I'm talking insurance here, and so to your point, Fred, what they do on the story like here, where this woman who was murdered's mom is very emotional, and at the White House at a press conference, at the daily press briefing, telling her story and contrasting that with the Democrats going to El Salvador to try to get this guy freed. The mainstream media look at that and they say, you know what? That favors the Trump administration because that woman has a very emotional and logical case to make, and we don't want to present that because that will help Trump and hurt the Democrats. Thus, MSNBC, CNN, others. Is CNN one of them?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They can't do something that might make their team look bad.
Listen, we're talking about the Democratic Party, who during the State of the Union address by President Trump, or his inaugural address, refused to stand up and clap for a young man who was battling cancer. Remember that?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's who they are.
Yes.
That's who they are.
Because Trump brought this young man in. He wanted to make a point, and they couldn't set aside political differences enough to applaud that.
Well, this is the reason for Fox News' rise in viewership.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Over the last 20, 25 years, and other radio and television networks, is because people realize the liberal media is lying.
And if you think we're exaggerating the point about the liberalism of the mainstream media, stop and think about this. The mainstream media is losing viewers, but they don't appear to care. The reason they're losing viewers is because of their bias. They're losing viewers, therefore they're losing millions of dollars in ad revenue, but they don't care. They are so dedicated to the left-wing ideology, they're willing for their businesses to go down the tubes.
I personally think that I agree with what you're saying. Part of the reason, though, is also that they have been, their newsrooms and even the upper echelon of these corporations, news media, that's corporate. They've been infested with these woke, radical leftists, and they understand that if they take a turn towards the middle, these people will all rebel. They'll lose their entire staffs.
Yeah.
So
CNN's trying, or they were trying. CNN recognized their model of promoting the liberal agenda was not working from a business standpoint. This was widely reported about a year ago. Remember, they changed CEOs and changed the way they. So they want to appear, at least, to be trying to be more objective and be the CNN of old. Where they were pretty reliable and dependable, at least for news coverage.
But look what happened at the Washington Post. Bezos.
Yeah.
When he tried to make some reforms, there was a rebellion.
Yeah, it's a rebellion.
Yeah,
because it's groupthink liberalism inside the newsroom and the editorial room.
CNN could have just aired the press conference featuring Patty and then brought out their panel, to which some liberal, and CNN is chock full of them, but some liberal could have said, well, she was emotional, she wasn't thinking straight, and then they could have had Scott Jennings say, you're wrong, you're a liberal, and then moved on and called it coverage. And I think most people would have been okay with that.
Listen, CNN, Scott Jennings appears to be one of the darlings of whoever's watching CNN. And that, to me, is proof that people want at least balanced media.
I'm looking at Newsbusters' website. They're chastising PBS, saying they ignored the murder by the illegal in favor of sad deportation coverage. CBS, meanwhile, spent 20 times more on Gayle King going to space than the whole flight crew. A CBS news personality, Gayle King, was one of the ladies that went up to space. I mean, there's
for 11 minutes.
If you ever want to know what mainstream media is wasting its time on, go to Newsbusters, because God bless them, people like Clay Waters, Nicholas Fondacaro, Curtis Houck, they all talk about stuff that networks are focusing way too much time on. For example, ABC, NBC trumpets Sleepy Joe's first post office speech bashing Trump and Social Security. I mean, they're wasting a lot of time.
All right, you're listening to Today's Issues. That's the name of the show on the American Family Radio Network. Tim, Ed, and Fred. Next story, Chris.
From time to time, when we talk about liberals and the crazy things that liberals, specifically leaders of the Democratic Party, are doing or not doing, sometimes people wonder, like, who is running the party? Is it AOC? Is it Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, or somebody else? Apparently, some of the younger people in the party now that have climbed the ranks and gotten cushy positions, like David Hogg, a lot of young people in the DNC are talking about raising money and going out and primarying Democrats to try to get rid of them and get in younger, more woke people in the Democratic Party. So that's one thing. And Fox, in a coverage of this today, had a segment on with Republican strategist Tiffany Marie Brandon. She said Democrats are just in complete disarray. Clip 5.
I think it's a desperate move. I think that at the end of the day, David Hogg is a 25-year-old Harvard grad who's a bit of a narcissist with a still yet undeveloped prefrontal cortex. And what we're seeing in this trend is the left starting to eat their own. What they're not realizing and recognizing and are starting to panic about is that they are not meeting the American people on the subjects that are most important to them. Look at the transgender issue. We have a 79% approval rating nationwide. That's 97% of Republicans and 67% of Democrats that believe that transgender athletes should be banned from women's sports.
Yeah. She went on, but we had to cut it somewhere.
Listen, I think the Democratic Party is in serious trouble because of exactly what she's talking about. We are watching the Democratic Party, who in 2020, during the primary season, invited in the socialist wing of the party, plus the woke, BLM, Antifa, all of those folks, invited them in when they realized that Bernie Sanders might get the nomination, and they wanted Joe Biden, who they thought would be a more
of an establishment
guy. And they made the promise. I'm guessing they made the promise. If you will all coalesce behind Joe Biden, get him the nomination, we'll let you guys into places of leadership. And now they're taking them at their word. And at least part of the reason why Trump got elected was because Biden, his policies were, I think, being directed by this more radical wing of the party, maybe without his knowledge at some point towards the end of his administration. And that's part of the reason why Trump won fairly handily. And now the Democratic Party is facing a takeover. You have James Carville a week or so ago saying we need to get those woke people need to just leave, start their own party. But it's too late for that, James. These people are in charge. Mm-hmm. And if Chuck Schumer might face a primary challenger, they're all in trouble.
Yep.
Yeah. The only thing I agree with you that the Democrat Party as a whole is in, they're in a malaise. They're in a, no man's land. There's no leadership there.
Yeah.
No direction, really. The energy, as it were, lies with the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the squad, that part of the party, because they actually they're wrong, but they do believe in something.
Right.
They try to fight for what they believe in. But I think that the only thing that could derail the Trump and the Republicans right now is Trump's tariffs. Mm-hmm. If Trump's tariffs don't work, then the reaction will be against the Republicans, mm-hmm. and the Democrats will be the benefactor. Yep. Even if the Democrats are in decline.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yep.
So I think that Trump's tariffs, we haven't had tariff talk today, so.
I'm prepared.
Yeah, are you okay? It's time now, ladies and gentlemen, for tariff talk with
Hello.
Today's Issues panel.
Sponsored
now we go
by
live. That's, to me, that's the economic program of President Trump will make or break his administration and the Republican Party in the fall of 2028. Right? Or
2026.
A year from now, we're in the throes of primary season.
So what I'm saying is this domestic agenda that President Trump has, not the economic agenda, but everything else, I think the American people, that's why they voted for Trump and the Republicans, and he is bringing it on all those issues, and people are applauding and saying it's about time on all of what Elon Musk is doing and mm-hmm. exposure to waste, fraud, and abuse, and all those things. By and large, the general public says, keep going, this is what we need. But, again, when you bring up tariffs, I was talking to a couple of guys yesterday they don't work here. They're conservatives just like us, Christian conservatives, economic conservatives. And they were like, I don't know. Hopefully it works. I hope he knows what he's doing, talking about Trump and tariffs. And these were smart guys, business guys, and they didn't know which way this thing was going to break. Yeah.
The American people will support ideas like Make America Great Again and bring manufacturing back, but those are all abstract if they're suffering at home.
Right.
Okay. Those are all abstract plans, but if Trump's policies,
Boeing goes down the tubes.
Yeah. If Trump's policies result in economic catastrophe at their kitchen table,
it won't matter.
They don't care about abstract.
No. Then the Democrats will say, look what he's done to the economy.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be back momentarily with more of Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
The wall around the city of Jerusalem has been destroyed and rebuilt many times. One person who went down into immortality because he rebuilt the wall around the city was Nehemiah. Many times while Nehemiah was leading the reconstruction of that wall, he was tempted to quit. But each time he sent back the same message. I'm doing a great work, and I cannot come down. The Jews had recently returned from exile and found the wall around the city of Jerusalem in shambles. They needed something to lift their dragging spirits. Nehemiah saw the need and set about doing something, rebuilding the wall. Nehemiah knew that positive action overcomes broken spirits. Nehemiah had something each of us needs in life, a purpose. God had given him the responsibility of rebuilding the wall. That was his purpose. Most people considered it an impossible job for Nehemiah to perform, but he didn't. There were those who sought to destroy Nehemiah, but he stood fast when they set a trap for him. I'm doing a great work, and I cannot come down. Now, Nehemiah wasn't bragging on himself nor his work. He was simply stating the fact that he had a purpose in life. The key to a useful life is purpose. Unless we have a purpose in life, we'll just go wandering aimlessly. And as most of us are aware, aimlessness is a big sickness in our world. Criticism didn't stop Nehemiah either. Even some of his own people criticized him. They became discouraged in their work. But whenever anyone tried to get Nehemiah to quit, his reply was always the same. I'm doing a great work and cannot come down. Nehemiah would never compromise his high purpose. Sanballat, an enemy, tried to persuade him to discuss the building of the wall. But Nehemiah simply sent back his standard answer. 5 times he was urged to discuss the situation. 5 times he sent back the answer, I'm doing a great work and cannot come down. If Nehemiah had gone to discuss the situation, he would have been harmed, and the wall would not have been rebuilt. But he knew that there are some things in life which one cannot compromise. Truth, justice, honor, duty, trust, and faith in God. These things are never to be placed on the bargaining table. Nehemiah had something all of us could use. He had staying power. His opposition sought to destroy him with ridicule, armed opposition, even peace talks. But he would not quit. He had hold of something great, a high and holy purpose, and he would not let go. Underlying all of Nehemiah's actions was something of very practical worth, a deep and abiding trust and faith in God. I'm doing a great work and cannot come down. There were those who were far more intelligent than Nehemiah, far more powerful, even richer, but history has forgotten them. Nehemiah is remembered because he had a purpose in life, and he stuck to it despite great odds and temptation. Get hold of a great purpose in your life, and when you are tempted, send back these words. I'm doing a great work and cannot come down.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. Jeremiah 29:13.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Welcome back, everybody, to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Today's Thursday, April the 17th, 2025. Tomorrow is Good Friday. Sunday's Easter is Easter, and our offices and studios will be closed tomorrow, as will many of you will be off work tomorrow, as it is Holy Week, and so we will have a couple of specials during the Trivia Friday hour. We do that on Good Friday because we, as Ed said earlier, we want to pay proper. Come on, Tim, you can do this. Pay proper respect to the reason for
Good Friday.
Good Friday. Boy, I struggled with that one there, didn't I?
Well,
nobody helped me. Y'all were just looking at me.
Well, I wasn't quite sure what you were going for.
Well, that was the problem. I didn't either. Exactly. I couldn't get it out. I had 2 P words back to back.
We all help each other out, and if we were struggling over words and stuff, we got a big crowd of folks who are visiting, and they're outside the window of our studio.
They all look retired.
Yes.
I'll say to you.
Well, they could be.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll talk to them. But we welcome folks to come by our studios.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, you want to tell them how they can do that, Ed?
Yeah, they just go to afa.net and
go to StubHub and get tickets.
Go
or Ticketmaster.
Go to StubHub. If you go to afa.net and hang on, I've got to click off this menu here, and you go to Contact Us, the little drop-down menu.
Right.
At the very bottom of that drop-down menu, it says Tours.
Okay.
So you have to fill some stuff out. We got to make sure, the law's not after you.
Right.
And
if they are, we're not hiding you here. Right?
That's right.
I'm going to call ICE.
Not for free. We won't.
Yeah.
There was a Canadian at the front door this morning that we didn't let in.
Oh, wow. Was that you?
No, it was a Canada Goose.
Oh, Canada Goose.
I'm serious.
It was at the front door.
Canadian Goose.
A Canadian Goose.
I thought that was
Canada
like
Goose.
some kind of liquor.
He was at the front door, and he was yelling.
It was a warning from Trudeau.
I want in.
Or I will slap tariffs on you.
Well, it is nice to have folks visiting with us today. And but anyway, we won't be here tomorrow with live programming during the Today's Issues Hour. That's one I want people to know that. All right. We are covering the news and current events here, and we do that each and every day on American Family Radio. Before the break, we were talking about President Trump and the fact that he's laid it all on the line with his tariffs for the world. Kind of like we are the world, and holding hands.
Right.
Said we are slapping the world
with tariffs.
But everything hinges on the success of that or not, doesn't it?
And this is not a new idea that popped into Trump's head. He's been talking about tariffs for 40 years. So this is something he believes in. He believes American economic policy should put America first, and that includes our trade deficit, which last year was over $1 trillion.
Right.
So,
all right. Well, we'll see. A lot depends on whether that works or not.
Yeah.
Because everything else that President Trump is doing domestically, which we've all applauded here for the most part, that hinges on what his economic.
And it won't matter to voters if we go into a recession.
Right.
That's
Who's our guest now, Fred?
Our guest is our very special guest every couple of weeks here on Today's Issues. I say this, she doesn't need any introduction, but I'm about to introduce her.
You got to introduce her anyway.
Jan Markell, host of Understanding the Times, which is heard right here on American Family Radio at 1 p.m. Central on Saturday, and then again on Sunday at 12 noon. Welcome, Jan.
Thank you, Fred, and everyone. I appreciate it so much.
Are Canadian geese welcome at your place?
Oh, they're all over my backyard. Yeah.
I saw them flying overhead the other day, and I was in the yard, and I said, "Welcome home, boys," because it's getting close to spring and summer.
That's right. Jan,
well, they don't have far to go here,
That's right. That's right.
Just a few miles.
Yeah, the Canadian geese there wear earmuffs in the wintertime just to...
That's exactly right.
Yes. Jan, a couple of stories involving Israel in the news this morning. And we have another round of talks that are going on this weekend between the United States and Iran on trying to force Iran to diminish or not to produce nuclear weapons. But also we learned that there's news this morning that the Trump administration apparently persuaded Israel. Israel had plans over the last several weeks to indeed attack Iran's nuclear facilities, and President Trump asked them to stand back from that plan while he was trying to negotiate. Jan, this is critical. If we cannot persuade Iran and be convinced that they are not producing nuclear weapons, dear knows what's going to happen. How does that fit into Bible prophecy, and where do you think this is going?
Yeah, those are really good questions, Fred. The president, of course, has said that we have a problem with Iran, and I think he's being rather generous there because the Iranians would love to buy time, as Joel Rosenberg and others have said, by dragging out negotiations with President Trump as long as possible. And I think Donald Trump will go along with that for a while, but certainly not forever. But what is the alternative? And the alternative is indeed an American attack on Iranian nuclear facilities, which, by the way, is a supreme challenge. They're underground. They're within mountains. They're strategically planted facilities that are extremely difficult to get to. Now, would Israel cooperate in this? Of course. And this has kind of been put off. At least it's on delay. It was going to happen in May. Israel was going to attack in May. And the president said, we got to wait. We got to talk and talk and talk.
Well, as I say, there's another round of talks this weekend in Rome between American officials and Iranian officials. But also we learned this week, and Ed and I were talking about this morning, there's another carrier group that has entered the area. And that, I think, Ed, just kind of increases the tension and I think the Trump administration trying to increase the pressure on Iran to come to some kind of deal.
Yeah, because, Jan, you can comment on this. It's clearly a threat to move a second U.S. carrier group into the region. Everybody understands that. It's interesting that when you have a dictatorship, which is what Iran is, it's a religious dictatorship, you can have consistent foreign policy, but to the point I think that you were making earlier, if you have a free country like ours, you have elections every so often, and you can string out the negotiations until you get a different president and hope for a different foreign policy. So it's going to be interesting to see how the religious leadership of Iran responds to a second carrier group, because it's going to seem like a threat. How do you think they're going to respond to it?
Well, let's just consider it from a biblical perspective for a moment, and that was a question a moment ago. From a biblical perspective, Iran is not going away. I mean, Iran certainly could be delayed with her nuclear program, but we know, according to Ezekiel 38 and 39, a future prophecy. How far future, we don't know. Israel will come against, Russia is going to invade Israel. Let's put it that way. Russia, Iran, Turkey, and some more minor players are going to invade Israel in the Gog and Magog war of Ezekiel 38, 39. That could be tomorrow. It could be next year. It could be in 10, 5 years. Who knows? We don't know. My only point is we can talk about stalling Iran, stalling her nuclear program, and we should. But then the Iranian powers, mullah power, is not going away. Now, having said this, America or Israel is not going to war with the people of Iran. It's these doggone mullahs that keep doing this to the Iranian people. Iranian people aren't the least bit interested in what we're talking about. But my only point is the Bible says Iran plays a major role in future events. So what we or Israel could do could delay things, but eventually Gog and Magog takes place. Iranian empire not going away, but this certainly could delay things.
All right. Well, go ahead.
No, it's just one more question. Israel announced this week, Jan, that they are going to maintain a military presence into the distant future, not only in Gaza, but also in Lebanon and Syria. I think it goes to the point that Netanyahu is serious this time. They are not going to allow another October 7.
Exactly. That was so devastating a year and a half ago. Anybody who was watching sort of things unfold that particular weekend we're still in shock. I've got Michelle Bachmann this weekend and the following weekend. We'll talk about these things because I really think the world is at a crossroads. I mean, are we going to deal with the thugs in Iran and other places of the Middle East as well? I don't think we have an administration that's going to do that. We had the previous administration, which, as you gentlemen said, look at the difference in administrations. The Biden administration let them get away with anything. But this administration won't. And so I think we're coming to a showdown is my only point. And I think we need to be watching this like a hawk. And I think we need to have experts speak into it because we got troubled days up ahead. If I think no matter what path we go down, we've got really rough times ahead. But I'm so thankful we have a president standing up for freedom like we have now.
Did y'all already ask her about Mike Huckabee? Because I wasn't here.
No, sir.
No.
I had to step out. Jan, Tim here, I wanted to ask you, what do you Mike Huckabee was confirmed as ambassador to Israel, and we're just tickled here. I don't know. Your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. This is one of the sort of the Middle East bright spots, and obviously, based on what I just said the last few minutes, it can be very dark. But Mike Huckabee, a ray of sunshine, and pro-Israel community, very, very pleased about this, yes.
All right. Thank you, Jan. Take care. Have a wonderful Easter weekend celebration.
And you.
Okay,
goodbye now.
Thank you. That's Jan Markell joining us from, I just call her Susie Sunshine right there, with the end of the world scenarios for nuclear obliteration.
Yeah, she's talking Bible, though. So.
I know.
Yeah, it's.
Well, listen, I mean, there is going to be. There is going to be trouble.
I mean,
around the globe.
It's truth from beginning to end. But focuses on the end often.
But to your point, nobody looks forward to that. In fact, I think it's in Amos.
We look forward to Jesus returning.
Yes,
that's right. Christians do, but we don't look forward to all the who does.
Right.
The trouble that's coming to planet Earth.
I want to say it's the prophet Amos, but he's talking about the day of the Lord. And he says, all of you who are looking forward to the day of the Lord, don't, because it's a day of, and he starts to list all the difficult things that will come. So a normal person doesn't look forward to those kinds of things, but does look forward to the Lord's return. Or, good grief, just going home to be with the Lord.
Amen.
Doesn't have to be at the end, just as long as
I tell
we're
you,
there.
Something I'm looking forward to in glory, no pollen. Time doesn't change. There's no more tariff talk, although I am fully prepared to do more on this. We don't have to worry about these things. We'll be with the Lord forever.
So those are your top 3 reasons?
Well, let me tell you this. I don't deserve...
Have you talked to your pastor?
So
have you even been listening?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yes, I have. And I mean, listen, I don't deserve heaven.
No pollen. That was in his top 3.
That's a sermon series coming. No more pollen.
Bradford pear trees don't stink.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. That's preaching.
Yeah.
It's preaching, all right.
Yeah. Brother Rob's listening.
Right out of the Message Bible, I think.
Man, I tell you this, on Sunday, if he looks dead at me, points at me, I've touched a nerve.
Does your pastor listen to our show?
I believe he does.
All right.
I believe he does.
That's our millennial
Yes.
point of view.
No more pollen.
I also
No more high gas prices.
This morning we were talking about our favorite foods, and during the news meeting, as we were all gathering, for some reason Bronson brought it up, and we were all talking about it. And I did say that I hope Jesus is building my place next to a Mexican restaurant because that is my favorite type of food. So.
Oh man, Chris, you need to go on tour, brother. You're just bringing it.
Let me tell you this.
Yeah, be careful. You are wound up right now.
For those that have never heard me share the story, and I'm happy to do that at some point if anybody wants to call or email me, I came to know the Lord thanks to Fred. So Fred's my spiritual connection to the Lord.
Can I just raise?
I don't know if Fred
He's the Paul to my Timothy, if you will.
I don't want to know if Fred wants credit for that right now or not.
Maybe not.
Anyway.
I'm sorry.
Can I just add a strange story to the mix here? I was just looking on Fox News. And there's a story on Fox News about UFO footage captured by U.S. Navy shows mysterious aircraft launching from the sea. So I'm scrolling down while Chris is prattling on about his wish list for heaven.
Right.
And they have a story, I guess, from Fox News. These states are best prepared for an alien invasion. Explains UFO expert.
Is California number 1?
No. I'm kind of disappointed.
Who are they?
Here are the 5 states.
Okay.
5 states: Virginia, Minnesota, New York, Massachusetts, and Alabama.
I could see Alabama. I would think Texas would be on that list.
Yeah, I just
Like, when you're born, you get a gun
Those
in
are the
Texas.
5 states that are what now?
best prepared for an alien invasion. Now, I don't know the reason for that because I just drifted
Right.
down the page. But that's a kind of a weird selection of states.
If Governor Ivey is listening in Alabama, she should put that on the billboard when you cross the state line. Best prepared for an
Top
alien
5.
invasion.
Top 5. Oh, man. I think my guess would be Virginia because they have the naval. I don't know. What am I? We're starting out.
Yeah, okay. It just struck me as interesting.
5 states.
So after I got this show, I'm checking this out.
Checking it out.
I want to find out.
Your use of Prattle On was spot
Well, I
on.
think that could be used against a candidate who's an incumbent. You could say, "Hey, did you see the recent guy running against the governor?
How come our state isn't
How come
better
our state-
prepared?
Yeah, we're dead last. We are dead last in preparation for alien invasion.
Yeah,
and
let's
you
get
call
on it.
yourself a leader.
Yeah,
that's all I have to say.
Let's get on it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Vote for me.
Hey.
So where will you find this story?
This is on Fox News.
Yeah.
Speaking with space, I did not realize this until I was looking at it a minute ago on the On This Day in History that Britannica puts together. Today is the anniversary of the Apollo 13 crew returning to Earth. You remember?
Yeah,
everybody
Tom
knows the
Hanks
story
came
here.
back. That was great.
This happened long before I was born, but you guys lived through this. I mean, like, what was it like? Number one, knowing that astronauts were stuck in space, and that
What year was that?
1970 is when they returned to Earth.
Okay, so the Apollo. What do you call it? Mission.
Missions. They had multiple
missions.
missions.
For those who don't know, those were the trips to the moon, right?
Yes.
Did they have 13 of those?
At
No,
least,
I don't
at
think
Or
least
did they
13.
all go to the moon?
Did they have I think they had 18
The
or
Houston
19.
we have a problem was the 13th one.
Yeah.
That's the origination of that phrase. Houston, we have a problem, which was really said by the lead astronaut, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
There. But now there was the movie. I didn't see the movie. I've seen bits and
You've
pieces.
never seen that movie? That's really a
Is
good
Tom
it
movie.
good?
Hanks,
It's a good movie.
Kevin Bacon's in it, Gary Sinise, and then Ron Howard directed it.
Okay. Yeah, I need to watch it, but I you know how you catch bits and pieces of movies, but I've seen that. But I knew Tom Hanks was the lead actor there. But so today is the day that happened in 1970.
Yes.
Is today the day of the explosion, that we learned the explosion, or that they came home?
Today is the anniversary that they came home, the splashdown.
Okay.
Ending one of the most tense chapters in space history. 4 days earlier, an oxygen tank had exploded, threatening the lives of the 3 astronauts.
Well, and that the reason the movie's so fascinating is how they jury rigged
Yes.
the Apollo capsule or whatever to get back, say, because they had some system failures, and I put that right up there in terms of bravery and engineering with the 5 women who went up to space a few days ago for 11 minutes. I put those together in terms of
Right.
the brilliance of the people who went up,
Yeah.
and then were able to come down.
You see where, Katy Perry, the singer?
Oh, huge fan.
I could tell.
She's a pop singer.
I know.
That I couldn't sing one song, but that's not my era.
I'm pretty sure her first one AFA had a issue with, and for good reasons.
Okay.
She was anyway. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm
what
not
you were
here to
gonna say.
review her career.
No.
I'm only here to say this. She was on the flight yesterday.
Yeah.
Was it yesterday?
It was earlier
It's
this week.
Jeff Bezos's
Fiance.
Yeah.
It's not Beyonce.
Fiance.
Oh, Beyonce. What's her name? Sanchez or something like
Yeah.
that. Anyway, but she and like 4 of the women, Gayle King from CBS and Katy Perry and I don't know who else, went up to and did the up and stay up in the space for 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and then come back down to Earth. Do they come down where they left off? Do they lifted off?
Fairly close, I think.
I don't know how
I
that
don't
works exactly, but of course I didn't do well in chemistry. That's.
I think.
But anyway, hold on a second before you think.
I'm sorry.
Okay, because we never know where that'll go, do we, Chris?
Let me write down my thoughts.
Yeah, please write them down first.
I'm enjoying this beatdown.
But anyway, yeah, I love Chris. But Katy Perry the singer.
Yeah.
She got off the 11-minute trip and kissed the earth.
Yes.
Yes.
And it was like she's being mocked universally about.
Deservedly so.
Yes.
She
Especially
kissed the
after
dirt
the
and liked it.
especially after the astronauts who were stuck for 9 months just got home.
Yes.
Yeah, and there was probably less coverage of that in the mainstream media because it was Elon Musk going up and getting down under orders from President Trump.
Made him
there was less coverage of that than there was of these 5 women going up with their makeup on and then coming back down. It's just
and acting like Katy Perry acting like I've been done.
They're so brave.
So brave.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's an insult to women like Sally Ride that work they worked really hard to get where they were. They fought sexual discrimination, all these things, and they finally achieve it. And then like some people that have money or are married into things get to go to space. It's an insult to people like Sally Ride. I'm interested to see.
She was one of the astronauts that died in the launch in '84 or something like that.
Yes.
It was the
first American female astronaut was Sally Ride. Now, I'm interested to see which billionaire kind of wins the space race, if you will, because Elon Musk has SpaceX. Jeff Bezos has Blue Origin, as it's called. Blue Origin seems to be more like space tourism, whereas like Elon really wants to do things that somehow benefit
He wants
mankind.
to colonize Mars.
Yeah.
Which I think is one of his wackier ideas.
Yeah. Would you go to space if you had the opportunity?
No. I would not.
How are you going to colonize Mars?
Well, that's what a lot of people are asking. There's all sorts of problems.
Anyway, I guess you
in
gotta
terms
have a
of
vision.
gravity, the ability. There's ideas about maybe terraforming to try to create some sort of atmosphere, but the gravity is not strong enough to hold on to an atmosphere. And then plus it takes a long time to get there.
Yes. Several years ago, Elon Musk was quoted as saying he wanted to nuke Mars and create global warming on that planet to make it to where people could live on it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, he's dreaming.
I don't want to send the nuke through our atmosphere.
My
That's
vast
just me.
scientific knowledge up against Elon Musk any day. Hey, listen, we joked about Katy Perry. Wasn't she raised in a Christian home?
She was, and she sang songs and about alternative lifestyle experiences.
Yeah,
and whatnot.
I want to encourage people to pray for her and not just mock her.
This would be a great weekend to do that.
You can mock her a little bit, but pray for her.
Right.
And for these pop singers, there's several of them who were raised in a Christian home and now mock the Christian faith. It's a sad thing. So pray for Katie.
Amen.
And we're all happy that she made it home after an 11-minute stay in space. And the rest of these ladies.
Yeah. All right. So I wonder how that works. Elon Musk does that too, doesn't he? Doesn't he have a spaceship that goes up and comes down in 15 minutes or so? Or somebody does.
That's
somebody.
Well, his go up and come down for the most part.
I'm talking about
that's Bezos.
Yeah.
Only him?
The rocket that launches them comes back down by itself and lands.
You're talking about for tourism.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Musk does a lot of that.
Bezos has that on lockdown.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
We shall return momentarily.
Stay away from that pollen, Chris.
Yeah. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
All God asks of you is faithfulness. Headlines in USA Today, did you see it this morning? All the odds are against us. Faithfulness is the word.
There's a place for you on the battle line. Engage in the fight for America's families. Visit AFA.net and then take your position. A message from the American Family Association.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. Immigration and Customs Enforcement launched an operation targeting illegal immigrants in the New York City area. Madison Allworth with the latest.
They picked up 206. So this all happened during this massive operation last week in and around New York City. In the group arrested, there were 121 illegal migrants with criminal convictions or charges that involved murder, assault, arson, sex crimes against children, as well as a slew of drug and gun offenses. And according to the feds, at least one suspect was a member of the violent Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua. Her neighbors were interviewed as she was arrested. They were happy to see her go, one saying, "Good riddance."
Maryland Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen landed in El Salvador yesterday in an attempt to visit Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the illegal alien who was deported by the Trump administration. Van Hollen says he's working to return Garcia back to the U.S., but the White House says they have no plans to bring him back because they say he's a member of the MS-13 gang. State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce called out Van Hollen and other senators who are not focusing on serving their constituents.
This is the absurdity that Americans have been facing for too long. Americans deserve representation, safe cities, the ability for their children to be safe at home, for their daughters to come home alive.
The Supreme Court of the United Kingdom unanimously ruled Wednesday that a woman is someone born biologically female, a move that now excludes men pretending to be women from the legal definition of a woman. So-called trans women can be excluded from some single-sex spaces and groups under the UK Equality Act. The 5 judges of the top court ruled these spaces and groups include changing rooms, homeless shelters, swimming areas, and medical or counseling services provided only to women. Fox News contributor Steve Hilton says this is a no-brainer that shouldn't have to be taken up by a court.
It's an amazing result. Somewhat surprising, I've got to say, because for years now, the legal establishment, along with most of the establishment, has been on the side of the cowards and the idiots who've denied obvious reality and common sense. I mean, this is exactly what President Trump said in his inaugural address just a few months ago. And it was so shocking to all of us, I think, that something so obvious needed to be stated. Right. And it's the same in the UK. You need the Supreme Court to state something that is so obvious to most people. Anyway, they've done it. It's great news. The trans activists are screaming, but normal people are celebrating.
More than a dozen church leaders in Ohio are raising concern after seeing a picture of elementary students in yoga poses that obviously involved more than physical exercise.
Pastor Hank Webb of Belmont Community Church reports the clergy wrote a letter to Shelby School's school board and Superintendent Michael Browning, concerned that students were shown a yoga video without parental permission. He says Browning tried to mitigate the issue.
He said, there's no reason to bring this before the board. I would like to sit down with you and a few of the pastors that are concerned, and we can talk this out. He didn't want anything to go public.
Such presentations happen just once a year on Field Day, and Pastor Webb says Superintendent Browning told him the yoga presentation would be excluded next year.
He did say that he would write through the district that, this would not be included in the next Field Day, that they would be more conscientious of it. But until this point, we've not really seen anything to back that up other than a letter back to us.
I'm Bob Kellogg.
And finally, a group of states is moving to ban certain foods from food stamp programs.
Arkansas becomes the first state to submit a waiver formally requesting the ability to ban certain junk foods from the SNAP benefits list. And now Indiana and Idaho are following suit. This is something that President Trump campaigned on. Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, otherwise known as food stamps, served over 41 million people and cost $100 billion in 2024. Now, zooming in, SNAP helped feed about 240,000 people in Arkansas and 610,000 in Indiana in 2024. Governors can change product eligibility only through these waivers from the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
That's Kelly Saberi reporting for American Family News, almost to Pew.
Backed by popular demand, the AFA Easter button is here. The bold new stained glass design features the cross at the center under the message, "He is risen." This beautiful design tells the story in one line. It's a conversation starter, so you might share the saving truth of Jesus' death and resurrection. A 10-pack of buttons is $15. 10 or more 10-packs are just $7 each. Order today at resources.afa.net. That's resources.afa.net. He is risen indeed.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, president of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network on this Thursday, April the 17th. Thank you for listening to AFR. Tim, Ed, and Fred here, and now Steve Paisley Jordahl joins us. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning,
Steve.
everybody.
So Steve's got a short sleeve shirt on today.
But it is Paisley.
It is Paisley.
It does have, small Paisleys.
Yeah, is Paisley?
It's this
coming,
little.
Is Paisley going to come back, or is it back?
Well,
I mean, he's got to be
my,
buying these shirts from somewhere.
Yeah.
Someone's making them.
I'm doing my best.
Yeah. I don't know. I heard President Trump talking about getting a tariff, slapping a tariff on Paisley.
Oh, that would be bad.
Well, that's
That'd be
what I
bad for
thought. I think
Steve.
he's going to have a revolt inside the
That's
MAGA
right.
movement. You start slapping tariffs on Paisley.
Is there a lot of Paisley?
And polka dots, too, he said.
No.
He was talking about that.
Certainly on flannel. There's a lot of flannel in the MAGA movement.
Flannel. All right, Steve, what do
All right.
you had the you said you have the skinny on the Apollo.
Oh, you guys were talking about Apollo, and someone asked, did they all go to the moon? So the purpose of the Apollo program was to get a man to the moon and return him safely home. But, for example, Apollo 1, they had a terrible, tragic fire on the launching pad. It killed 3 of the astronauts. And then the missions, early missions, were things like trying out the Titan rocket. So they'd launch it and just have it unmanned. The first couple were unmanned. Then they had them practice the docking of the LEM. All of this stuff they practiced. And then they set a couple flights up that just orbited the moon and came back. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's
Apollo 8 and such. And then finally Apollo 11.
Those
the
were
alarm
unmanned
squad.
missions
No.
around the moon? Or
No, they were manned.
Okay.
Remember the picture of the Earthrise? Or
Yeah,
whatever? That was one of those unmanned, those manned lunar missions. They didn't land on the moon.
Right.
But and so
that
Apollo
was
11 was the first.
That was a whole other technical hurdle.
Yeah. Can we slingshot you around the moon and use that to get us back home? What happens in that 45 seconds or so, or 3 minutes, whatever, when you're behind the moon and you're out of contact with NASA?
And nobody knew what was until they circled the moon. Nobody really knew what was on the dark side of the moon.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I didn't think
Pink Floyd did.
It was.
right.
I think there was a lot of people thought there was a Nazi base.
Could have been
on the dark side of the moon.
I've seen some movies. No, but that
is true. That was one of the beliefs. I know you're looking at me. You just
I had not heard that theory
Yeah.
before.
That
Do you
was-
subscribe to that?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Are you kidding? What kind of dreamer do you think I am?
But there was a Marriott.
And a Dollar General.
Dollar General.
Dollar General.
On the dark side of the
First
moon.
one's on the moon.
Actually, 3.
3. Yes, 3. You know,
within a mile of each other.
All right. Hey, so that's very interesting. I'm sure I knew that at some point in my life. We probably covered it in 6th grade or something like that, but I had forgotten all that.
Well, remember there was I shouldn't go because I can't remember all the details. But the first round of NASA launches were single,
like Mercury or
blend,
Gemini.
Yeah, Mercury, and then Gemini, and then Apollo.
Okay.
Mercury was single, like the first man to orbit the moon, orbit the Earth.
Shepard, John Glenn.
And then there was Gemini, which was the 2 men, and they did spacewalks and that kind of stuff, and then Apollo.
They sent a dog up there. That was
the
the Russians.
That didn't end well for the dog.
Yeah.
Really, what happened?
He died.
Hey, is he still up there?
No. They
brought him back?
They brought the capsule back, but
Okay.
yeah.
Well, you act like I should know that.
No, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I forgot about that one.
Well, and the dog's name was Alpo. So, I mean, you draw your own conclusion.
It was Leica.
So you know the name of it? Steve, I'm
such a geek.
I'm impressed. That's
It was the name of what was the name?
Leica was the name of the dog.
I'm using that. I'm using that as a trivia question next week.
Yeah, look it
We'll
up.
see who's paying attention.
Yeah.
I just want to start singing B-I-N-G-O.
You mean?
But it wasn't bingo. It was
Leica was
it was
his name.
Alpha.
L-I-K-S. Oh, whatever.
Yeah. All right. So moving on.
Yes.
Moving on.
The Democrats continue to hitch their wagon to winners. HHS, the Homeland Security, the Department of Homeland Security, tweeted out this tweet. Kilmar Obrego Garcia has a history of violence and was not the upstanding Maryland man the media has portrayed him to be. According to court filings, Garcia's wife sought a domestic violence restraining order against him, claiming he punched, scratched, and ripped her shirt, among other things. So, and this is, I guess it's an alleged abuser, but this is put out by the Homeland Security Office, so it's not like somebody's making this up. And they have the complaint, picture of the complaint.
But now, Fred, we did mention this story in the first hour. Fred also mentioned, but now she wants him back.
Yeah.
So
the Democrats were playing a video of her the other day. Got her, bring my husband home.
But that's not unusual. My understanding is that's not unusual in some abuse cases where the woman is torn between being afraid but then wanting her husband to be with her. So sometimes they drop charges, and so I don't know what happened in these particular instances. But
well, in a related story, the Babylon Bee is reporting that American hostages in Gaza are disguising themselves as MS-13 gang members, so Democrats will fight to bring them home.
The Democrats, this is not listen, you've got to have more going for you than trying to defend savage gang members.
It is.
This is bad for them. I don't know who's in charge. Maybe Biden's still in charge, and that's why this is happening.
Next story, Steve.
All right. I don't know if this is cracks in the MAGA wall, if you could say that, but I think it would be generally understood that the most fervent among the MAGA crowd are those that were arrested and have been in prison for several years because of the Capitol riot. Well, it's being reported in the Hill that the J6 prisoners are getting a little, they say the word is vexed with the Trump administration because even though he did give them the federal clemency, he pardoned them, they're still in because of local charges. But they don't believe that he's delivering on his campaign promise to pay back their prosecutors for weaponizing the. So they haven't gone after them. I saw a tweet from Dan Bongino, who's the deputy director of the FBI, who said, don't mistake you not being able to see progress for there not being progress, because a lot of stuff happens behind the scenes. But the J6, if I don't know if that's a crack in the MAGA wall, because there's a story we did just a little while ago about people flocking to MAGA. Americans. I think we talked about it.
Yeah, I don't think this is this is still a tragedy what's happened to the vast majority of these people. Now, they are so some of them are still in jail because of local charges. I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, the president only has the power to forgive federal charges.
Yeah.
The Washington, D.C. Capitol Police.
Well, I'm shocked that Washington, D.C. would continue to go after these folks. They're so fair-minded.
Yeah. Hey, we had a ruling come down this morning from a judge, Leonie Brinkema, in Alexandria, Virginia. This judge has found that Google has held an illegal online ad tech monopoly. Google has a monopoly on the way that ads are run online. And the judge says maybe time to break up Google.
Wow. Well, now breaking up Google, that would be like massive. Now the judge is threatening the judge can't do that though,
The
right?
ruling could allow prosecutors to argue for a breakup of Google's, at least their advertising products. So there's two products that things that the judge says that they have a monopoly on. The first is called a publisher ad server. Basically, it's the server that helps Google decide which ads to show on their website to target based on things. And then also they had their ad exchange server, which is where advertisers buy advertising.
Okay, I don't understand any of that, but okay.
The process by which their ads, the judge says and they've done it by buying up competitors. And
But to break up Google, that would have to be through government prosecution, right? I mean,
I
a
would
judge
think so.
a judge can't break up a company.
I don't remember how Ma Bell went down, but it would be the same kind of thing.
Okay.
Ma Bell.
Ma Bell.
The Bell Company that owned all the telephones.
It used to be, the telephone system. A lot of people, younger people, don't remember this or know it, but the Bell Company was a monopoly for the phones. You used the phone; it was the Bell, and then they broke it up into Bell South and
Baby Bells.
Yeah, Baby Bells, and then finally they just were squashed by the revolution in handheld phones,
Verizon, and that kind of stuff. Yeah, for sure. All right, I've got a couple of studies that came out that I think are kind of interesting. I'll be covering these for American Family News, but I thought I'd bring them up here. A study is revealing that young Americans have a profound shift that's happening in their lives. They're walking away from churches, synagogues, and mosques in record number while maintaining personal spiritual beliefs and practices. In other words, they believe in God, but not in church. And a second study, which finds that Americans are leaving organized religion for personal truth, is what the study says. Leaving organized religion in search of personalized faith perspectives, or syncretism, which, Ed, you can define that, right?
Yeah, syncretism is the mixing.
It's Olympic.
It is.
Olympic pool.
It's what?
It's Olympic pool dancers.
Yes.
Am I right?
That is.
Am I right? Did they not do synchronization?
Yes.
They do synchronized swimming. Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
Where they join together.
Yes.
To do parallel.
They're pretty
movement.
good at it.
And
too.
according to this study, there's a church underwater that they attend.
But yeah, well,
syncretism is the joining of combining of various religious beliefs into a religious system that's distinct from its parts.
It's like the what's the
New
buffet?
Age.
The buffet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get to pick and choose what you like.
I read a little bit about these studies, and as an example, these people are leaving churches that preach against the sin of homosexuality.
Yeah.
So they want to be part of a belief system that believes in a God who is okay with sexual perversion.
Right.
So they want to bring their worldly
I don't think they're growing.
beliefs.
Excuse me, friend.
Yeah, go.
They're not growing. They're dying. Organized.
Mainstream.
Let me explain myself here. The liberal churches are dying because they don't believe in anything, and that's the United Methodist Church, for example, just split up because the churches that do believe in the Apostles' Creed and the Bible and teachings about human sexuality that have been around for 2,000 years, those churches are going to grow, and they left the denomination.
They're not called global Methodists.
Yeah. Yes. So but this trend by Americans in particular, and the Europeans left a long time ago, they're basically atheists. Right?
True.
Atheists and agnostics dominate Europe now. So, and Muslims.
A
lot of Muslims, but even the Muslims are backslidden, which is a good thing, actually. But this idea of moving toward individualized spirituality, as they call it, that's been trending in America for 30 years or so. And here's why, is because people don't want to be told how to live. But they don't want to say they're atheist, Americans. That's unpopular too. So you don't want to. So what you do is you try to say, well, You'll hear this all the time, especially from entertainers. They'll say, or politicians, especially the pop culture. They'll say, well, I'm spirit. I'm a spiritual person, but I'm not into organized religion. Well, you'll hear that over and over and over again. What that means is I get to make up everything myself.
Yeah.
I don't have to follow a dogma. I don't have to follow the Bible or a religious creed. I get to make it up as I go along, but then I get to, sit with my legs crossed and raise my palms and say I believe in a spirituality, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it goes undefined. If you were to ask these people who say I believe in spirituality, well, what if you give me 5 things of these things I believe? You know what I'm saying? And they couldn't give it to you.
Either that or they could, even though they're saying I don't believe in dogma. But I do have these beliefs that I think are right.
But they don't want to tell you. They want to subscribe to everybody gets to make up their own value system, as long as it agrees with them.
Yeah, I just want to say this, that while it is technically true that you can be a Christian all by yourself, okay, you have an individual relationship with God, it is not a biblical idea that you can be a Christian without belonging to a church.
Is it true that God builds your mansion in heaven on a desert island? You get to spend eternity by yourself if that's what
no. Listen, the New Testament is all about Christian community. It is how God helps us grow. It is how we are allowed to express the increasing capacity for love for other people. It is not a biblical idea to not belong to a church. And that does go across the grain of what you're talking about, Tim, where these people want to be Christian or something else, call themselves something, and say, but I'm not telling anyone else how to live their lives, and I'm going to do this on my own. Well, that is not a biblical idea. I don't know that should be shocking to people, but you cannot read the New Testament without seeing we and each other. That is the way God designed it, and it is called the body of Christ for a reason. The Apostle Paul talks about how we are all individuals, members of one body. So for those who are considering that, I would just say you can technically have a relationship with God by yourself, but Christianity, as defined by the Bible, is not that.
Right. The New Age movement, that took off like in the 60s and 70s and 80s. The New Age movement, it's Eastern mysticism.
Right.
A lot of it's undefined. Again, I said there's no tenets of these things we believe, like in individual spirituality. So that way you don't violate anything because there are no commandments to violate.
Nothing to violate.
No. So in the Christian teaching, religion, faith, the Orthodox people who actually believe things, you say, well, the 10 Commandments is from God and I got to obey them. Mm-hmm. The Sermon on the Mount is from God through Jesus Christ. I got to obey that.
Right.
Or I got to try every day. So, but the person who's individually spiritual, quote, they're not going to be bound by those rules. Okay.
They're inconvenient, Tim.
They're inconvenient. That puts a moral code on them that they don't want.
Right.
They don't want those shackles. Okay. So they just say, well, I'm spiritual. Well, it's undefined.
I believe in a higher power.
You'll get that too.
Yeah.
Well, what is that higher power? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't do you any good.
And you can define it however you want.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I'll define it however I want.
All right. You're listening to, let me tell folks, you're listening to the radio program Today's Issues and the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for joining us, Tim, Ed, Fred, and Steve. We have about 6.5 minutes left on this Thursday, April 17th edition. Go ahead, Steve.
I just was going to say God by his very nature is relational.
Yes.
God the Father, God the Son, the Holy Spirit, God, it is not good for man to be alone.
Right.
I'm going to make a great nation out of you. Everything about God is relational.
Yes. Good point.
Here's something. Well, let's do this. Last night in Washington, D.C., they had the annual Easter dinner, the federal Easter dinner, not federal, but the Washington's Easter dinner. The president was there, and a lot of
they
our
have
friends,
that every Easter?
They do.
Okay.
A lot of our friends were there. Gary Bauer, I know, went. Robert Jeffress was on his way there.
I saw the picture.
Yeah.
Them praying for President Trump.
But there was a picture that was published a week or so ago. This was last night. They were back, and I want to let you hear. Maybe they did another picture last night. Could be. Anyway, I'd like you to hear a little bit about from Donald Trump. This is him speaking he spoke for an hour at this event. And while somebody does read.
Why so short?
I know, right?
He usually goes 2.
While people do write his speeches for him, I don't think he will say anything in a speech he doesn't believe. And this is what he said in this last speech, cut 8.
Nearly 2,000 years ago, during the sacred week, the living Son of God entered Jerusalem in triumph. Soon after, the Savior of mankind, who brought truth and light into the world, was betrayed, arrested, and tried, beaten, and nailed to a cross and crucified. For our sake, he gave up his life, and as the very great Reverend Billy Graham once said, God proved his love on the cross when Christ hung and bled and died. It was God saying to the world, I love you. 3 days later, Christ's followers found the empty tomb. Jesus had defeated darkness and death and promised new life to all of humankind. And that's what we celebrate each year at Easter as we joyfully proclaim on Sunday, he is risen. The death and resurrection of Jesus are the essence of the Christian faith.
Well, I'm very glad to hear the president say those words. It's important to recognize Easter. The majority, at least, of self-identified religious people in this country are Christian, and it's good for I like it when our nation honors the Lord.
The White House put out a spectacular Easter statement on honoring Easter, observing Easter, just full of this kind of stuff. And I was talking to Gary Bauer yesterday, and as is proper, and he does not discuss his individual private conversations with the president. So I posed the question like this. I know you can't tell me conversation you've had with the president if he indeed is saved, has accepted Jesus or not, but let me ask it this way. Were you surprised at the gospel presentation in the White House visit? No. No.
Okay.
He said that the bullet that he dodged fundamentally changed the man.
Yeah. We hope that
He didn't dodge it.
Well, yeah.
It was a miraculous
Yeah.
chain of events.
Yes,
I know you didn't mean that it was.
You're absolutely
Steve,
right. You're absolutely
But I
right.
mean, okay, if he turned his head at a millisecond less or more, he's dead. And we'd all have to watch that horrible story unfold on international television.
Yeah.
But-
And it would have
but-
torn our country apart.
Yeah, but he turned his head at the.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To show anyway.
Yeah.
I know you weren't saying that, but that's just.
Well, he
that was
credits God for that.
You're saying that miracle that occurred that
Yes.
day touched President Trump in a profound way.
It
That's what you're
refocused
saying.
him, and he has credited God with that several times. So.
Yes, he has.
And our hope is what he just read, he has taken personally.
Yes.
Because it's a personal relation with Jesus Christ. However, I want to add, those words I do not believe would have been spoken by Joe Biden.
Oh, no, I don't think so either.
They would find that offensive.
Yeah.
No, they would, because you'd be saying, well, so it's exclusive, huh?
Yeah.
Last
It's
year,
not diverse and equitable.
Last year, Biden put out about a 3-paragraph, 50-word observation of Easter. The same day, it was like a 3-page observation of Trans-Visible Day or whatever it was.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for listening to the program today. We will be live on Monday. We're going to celebrate with our families like you are and our fellow church members Easter as we remember the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you back here Monday.
Well, the song says, please.